Frustrated by his wife Jenna's delay in packing for their much-needed getaway, Derek made an impulsive decision to head to the airport without her. It was a move that spoke volumes about his impatience, yet he couldn't shake off a feeling of regret as he boarded the plane alone. Upon his return, the sight that greeted him left him questioning whether his hasty departure was worth it. "I'm going as fast as I can, okay?" Jenna said to Derek as he stood by the door, impatiently tapping his foot and glancing at the clock. "Honey, I don't want to start a fight. I just don't know why you didn't pack all of this last night. We're going to miss our flight," he responded calmly, but Jenna didn't take this well. "Ah! Go without me then! Leave!" she yelled, but she immediately regretted saying that. "No, wait, I'm so—" She started to apologize, but it was already too late. Derek had slammed the door shut, and she heard him stomping down the stairs. He surely wasn't really leaving without her, was he? She jumped up to follow him, but then she heard something else. It was the engine of the taxi that was waiting in front of their house. She looked through the window, and her mouth fell open at what she saw. Derek was loading his suitcase into the trunk. He really was leaving without her. She ran down the stairs and outside as fast as she could, but she was too late. He was gone. She stared at the taxi as it disappeared around the corner at the end of the street, and she made her way back inside the house. She unpacked her suitcase again, and she simply couldn't believe that he had actually done this. But she was going to make him pay for it. He would regret leaving her like this. In the meantime, Derek sat in the taxi and wondered whether he had done the right thing. His frustration was slowly disappearing and making space for guilt and regret. However, he did not stop the taxi. Because of Jenna, they had already missed a flight a few years back, and it had cost them a lot of money to book a new one. He wasn't going to let the same thing happen again. Besides, Jenna was always late with everything anyway. Whenever they made any plans or had to go anywhere, he was ready to go right on time. But they were always late because she took too long to get ready. This was the perfect opportunity to teach her a lesson, Derek thought, and he was sure that after this she would never be late for anything again. So, an hour later, he got on the plane without her. It did feel weird to go by himself, and he kept staring at the empty seat, Jenna's seat, next to him, but he decided to let it go. He was determined to enjoy the vacation and have a great time, and he would have a serious talk with Jenna as soon as he returned home. He finally relaxed and looked forward to the next 2 weeks. As soon as the plane landed, Derek grabbed his phone and called Jenna to let her know that he had landed safely, and also to apologize for what had happened that morning. However, she did not pick up, and he thought that she was still a little bit angry. That didn't surprise him, of course, but he did hope that she would cool off soon. He had no idea what was really going on back home. In the meantime, he went for a walk at the beach and enjoyed the sight of the ocean and the palm trees. He truly believed that Jenna would forgive him for what he had done, and that everything would be okay when he returned home. Little did he know that nothing could be further from the truth, but he would find out that something was wrong soon enough. Later that night, he tried calling Jenna again, but she still didn't pick up the phone. When he tried another time, the call didn't even go through, and he realized that she had blocked his number. However, he wasn't going to let this ruin his vacation. She would have missed the flight either way. That was not his fault. Why should he miss it as well because of her? Alone in the quiet of their home, Jenna saw an opportunity. The absence of Derek's presence was palpable, yet it gave her the space to think. She considered revisiting her painting hobby, a passion set aside amidst the busyness of life and her relationship. This solitude could be a gift, a chance to explore the parts of herself long neglected. Jenna set up her easel, the blank canvas in front of her, a metaphor for her current state. With each brushstroke, she expressed her whirlwind of emotions: anger, confusion, freedom. Derek's departure allowed her to process her feelings, turning a moment of solitude into a powerful act of self-expression. The house's silence was louder than any argument. Jenna walked through the empty rooms, pondering Derek's decision. His absence was a constant reminder of their fractured relationship. She stubbornly refused to unblock his number, convinced that this time apart was necessary for both of them to reflect on their actions and what they truly wanted. As the days passed, Jenna found peace in her solitude. She realized how much of her own interests she had sacrificed for the sake of her relationship. Rediscovering her love for painting, reading, and simply being alone was liberating. This period of reflection was not about missing Derek, but about reconnecting with herself. Derek reached out to Jenna through a mutual friend, a mediator in their stormy sea. The call, filled with hesitation, was Derek's attempt to mend the widening gap between them. He hoped this bridge of communication would start to heal the wounds his departure had inflicted, acknowledging the need for a heartfelt conversation about their troubled marriage. As they spoke, layers of unspoken grievances surfaced. Derek expressed his frustration over their constant lateness, while Jenna vented about feeling neglected. Their conversation, a mix of confessions and accusations, laid bare the issues eroding their marriage. It was a painful but necessary unveiling of their deepest fears and frustrations, a dialogue they'd long avoided. The conversation took a sharp turn, emotions flaring. Jenna, overwhelmed by anger and hurt, abruptly ended the call. Derek's attempts to explain were cut short as she hung up, refusing to hear more. This action spoke volumes of her current state. Unable to process her emotions or engage further, she chose silence over confrontation. Despite Jenna's refusal to continue their conversation, Derek clung to hope. He dialed her number repeatedly, longing for another chance to bridge their divide. Each unanswered call deepened his sadness, a painful reminder of their fractured connection. Yet he couldn't let go of the belief that their relationship could still be salvaged. That night, Derek lay awake, the silence around him heavy with regret. He replayed their conversation, each word a reminder of the pain he had caused Jenna. The depth of her hurt became clear, and with it, the realization of how much he had taken her for granted. It was a night of introspection, understanding and remorse, hoping for forgiveness and a path to reconciliation. Derek decided to let it rest and let Jenna have some time alone. However, after his vacation, Derek's return was met with an unforeseen obstacle. The locks on his house were changed. Standing at the door, keys in hand, he realized the extent of Jenna's hurt and the deep chasm that had formed in their marriage. This physical barrier was a stark manifestation of the emotional distance between them, a silent testament to their fractured relationship. Confronted with the reality of being locked out, Derek knew he couldn't spend the night on his porch. The thought was too humiliating, too cold, a physical and emotional chill. He needed to find somewhere to stay, a place to collect his thoughts and figure out his next steps. The porch, a place of memories, now felt like a barrier to his own home and life. Derek found refuge with a close friend, who offered not just a couch to crash on, but an ear to listen. As Derek recounted the events leading up to his lockout, his friend provided both sympathy and some much-needed perspective. The conversation was a mix of venting frustration and seeking advice, a small solace in the storm of his current situation. Derek tried once more to bridge the gap with Jenna, reaching out through every channel he could think of. But all his attempts were met with silence. Jenna had cut off all communication, leaving Derek to face the reality of his situation alone. Each unanswered message deepened his sense of isolation, a stark reminder of the distance now between them. The next day, Derek stood before his house, knocking persistently, but the response was only silence. It felt like knocking on a stranger's door, where no familiar face would greet him. The lack of response confirmed his fears. The house was empty, Jenna was gone, and he was left standing alone, facing the daunting silence that had taken over their home. In a moment of desperation, Derek shattered a window to gain entry. The sound of breaking glass mirrored the fracturing of their marriage's foundation. This act of breaking in was symbolic, marking a point of no return. It was a physical manifestation of the emotional turmoil and the breaking point in their relationship. The interior was hauntingly quiet, a stark contrast to the memories of laughter and life that once filled the space. Derek noticed Jenna's belongings were gone. Their absence made the house feel even emptier, a ghostly shell of its former self. It was as if her spirit, which had animated their home, had vanished, leaving behind a palpable void. Wandering through the empty rooms, Derek was overwhelmed by a sense of loss. The absence of Jenna's presence was a weight too heavy to bear, yet the house felt unnaturally light without her. This paradox of feeling both the heaviness of loss and the lightness of absence consumed him, a blend of guilt and despair suffusing his heart. Derek scoured the house for any sign of Jenna, any clue that could explain her drastic actions. Every drawer and closet was a testament to her thorough departure, leaving no trace behind. It was a desperate search for answers in a place that now felt more like a puzzle than a home, each empty room echoing the questions he couldn't answer. Derek's outreach to Jenna's friends and family only deepened his concern. Each conversation revealed they were under the impression Jenna was with him. This misunderstanding highlighted the gravity of her disappearance, leaving Derek to grapple with the alarming realization that no one knew where Jenna was. Their shock mirrored his own, amplifying the urgency of his search. Each unanswered call to Jenna's contacts added layers to the wall of silence surrounding her whereabouts. Derek's fear for her safety escalated with every dead end. The lack of response, once merely frustrating, now felt ominous, transforming his worry into a tangible dread that Jenna might truly be in danger. Visiting Jenna's workplace, Derek was met with the stark reality of her absence. Colleagues assumed she was on vacation with him, their casual remarks clashing with the gravity of his panic. This place, where Jenna's presence was expected and her absence unaccounted for, magnified Derek's sense of alarm, making her disappearance all the more perplexing. The search for Jenna hit a dead end, leaving Derek grappling with frustration and helplessness. Each lead fizzled out, deepening his despair. The absence of clues to her whereabouts or reasons for her sudden departure made the situation seem insurmountable, a puzzle missing too many pieces to ever complete. In his quest to find Jenna, Derek felt a profound isolation. Surrounded by people yet standing alone in his concern, her silence became his constant companion. The bustling city around him seemed indifferent to his turmoil, a stark contrast to the storm of worry and confusion raging within him. He knew that there was only one thing he could do: contact the police. In the stark, fluorescent-lit room of the police station, Derek reported Jenna missing. His voice, laden with concern, broke the clinical silence as he detailed the last time he saw her, the unanswered calls, and her complete disappearance. Each word underscored his desperation, his plea for help, a tangible force in the impersonal space. The police listened to Derek's account with a discerning ear, their questions piercing and pointed. Their skepticism was evident as they probed the timeline and Derek's actions. The atmosphere thickened with doubt, each query hinting they saw him not just as a concerned husband, but potentially as something more sinister. Derek's worry for Jenna was now compounded by a new fear, being misunderstood by the very people he hoped would help him find her. His plea for assistance was met with suspicion, turning his concern into a heavy burden. He felt trapped in a nightmare, where his anxiety for Jenna's safety was tangled with defending his own actions. Amidst the police's growing skepticism, Derek struggled to keep his hope alive. Each question seemed to cast further doubt on his sincerity, challenging his faith in the system meant to help him. He clung to the belief that they would eventually see his genuine concern for Jenna, despite the cloud of suspicion that hung over him. Derek provided Jenna's details to the police, his hands shaking as he handed over photos, descriptions, and any piece of information that could help find her. It felt like clutching at straws, a desperate grasp for any lead that might bring her home. Each detail shared was a whisper of hope, a plea for her safe return amidst the daunting silence. As Derek sought the police's help, their focus shifted subtly from concern to suspicion. Their questions, once investigative, now seemed accusatory, hinting at a darker narrative. This shift complicated his efforts to find Jenna, transforming him in their eyes from a worried husband to a person of interest, muddying the waters of his desperate search. Derek's confusion and fear escalated as he was taken in for questioning. The very system he had turned to for help now scrutinized his every word, making him feel alienated and mistrusted. Sitting in the cold, impersonal room, Derek felt his world turn upside down, his efforts to find Jenna now intertwined with defending his own innocence. The interrogation was grueling, leaving Derek feeling more isolated than ever. His pleas for understanding and assistance were overshadowed by relentless accusations. This barrage of questions, insinuating his involvement in Jenna's disappearance, only served to deepen his sense of desolation, making him question the very system he hoped would bring her home. As the questioning continued, Derek began to comprehend the legal implications of Jenna's disappearance. The possibility of facing charges, the scrutiny, and the suspicion felt like invisible chains binding him, a constant reminder of his precarious situation. This realization brought a new level of helplessness, overshadowing his initial quest to find Jenna with the fear of losing his own freedom. The police search of Derek's house yields unexpected incriminating evidence, suggesting a sinister involvement in Jenna's disappearance. This discovery, laid out before him in the stark light of the interrogation room, sends a chill through Derek. He's bewildered, unable to reconcile the existence of such evidence with his own certainty of innocence. Derek's mind races as he tries to make sense of the evidence linked to him. His initial confusion quickly spirals into panic. How could anything in their home suggest his involvement in Jenna's disappearance? He grapples with the reality of the situation, the pieces of the puzzle not fitting together in any logical manner he can understand. When confronted by the police with the incriminating evidence, Derek feels a profound sense of unreality. The accusations cast a shadow of doubt over his every word, his every memory of the days leading up to Jenna's disappearance. This confrontation leaves him reeling, unsure of how to prove his innocence when every piece of evidence seems to point against him. The suspicion surrounding him becomes Derek's prison, a confinement not of bars but of circumstances and accusations. He moves through his days shrouded in a cloud of doubt, his innocence overshadowed by the weight of suspicion. This invisible imprisonment, bound by the evidence and the police's scrutiny, leaves him feeling isolated and desperate. As Derek faces the looming possibility of charges, his fear of losing everything becomes overwhelming. The thought of a trial, of possibly being found guilty for a crime he didn't commit, is suffocating. Besides his legal worries, his concern for Jenna remains paramount. Where is she? And is she safe? This dual burden of fear and worry consumes him, marking his darkest hour. Out of the blue, Derek's phone rings with a call from the police. The case has been solved, and he's cleared of all accusations. Confusion washes over him as he tries to process the sudden turn of events. The relief of being free is muddled with questions and a deep sense of unease about what has truly transpired behind the scenes. As Derek grapples with his new reality, Jenna appears at his door, her presence as shocking as it is incomprehensible. The mix of relief and bewilderment Derek feels is overwhelming. Jenna, once missing, now stands before him, a living mystery whose sudden return upends any sense of normalcy Derek had clung to in her absence. Jenna reveals the truth behind her disappearance, an elaborate plan designed to force Derek into a confrontation with their relationship's failings. She confesses to framing him to simulate her own disappearance, a drastic measure taken in a bid to highlight the severity of their issues. Derek listens, stunned, as Jenna lays bare the extent of her actions and their intended purpose. Jenna expresses deep regret for the lengths she went to, acknowledging the pain and fear her actions caused. Her confession is a raw admission of her desperate longing for change, for acknowledgement, and for a renewed connection. Derek is confronted with the reality of Jenna's actions, her extreme measures illuminating the depth of her despair over their estrangement. Faced with Jenna's confession, Derek is forced to confront his own role in their relationship's breakdown. The path to forgiveness is fraught with mixed emotions, understanding Jenna's pain while grappling with the betrayal and fear her actions wrought. It's a delicate balance of hurt and healing as Derek begins to navigate the complex process of forgiving Jenna and understanding the motivations behind her drastic actions. In the aftermath of Jenna's return and confession, both Jenna and Derek acknowledge the importance of understanding, forgiveness, and open communication. They commit to rebuilding their relationship from the ruins of this ordeal, recognizing the necessity of confronting their issues head-on. This commitment to a new beginning is a testament to their willingness to learn from the past and move forward together. Renewed vows of love in the glow of reconciliation, Jenna and Derek rediscover the love that had been overshadowed by misunderstanding and neglect. They decide to renew their vows, symbolizing not just a promise to each other, but a celebration of their journey through adversity. Surrounded by friends and family who supported them through their darkest times, they look forward to a future filled with love, understanding, and the joy of being together. This renewal marks not just a chapter's end, but the beginning of a stronger, more resilient bond, forged through trials and forgiveness, a testament to the enduring power of love. Do you like this touching and surprising story? If so, we invite you to leave us a comment expressing your opinion. If you want to continue enjoying inspiring stories like this one, subscribe to our channel or check out the other videos shown at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for your cooperation.